Okay, hello everyone. This is Dr. George Theravothical, Professor Theravothical, or just George. And I am your instructor for Comp 439 and Comp 339, which is Distributed Systems. This class is often a combined class of advanced undergraduate students and graduate students. So please don't read too much into the course number. This is just sort of the way this class has been offered over the years, especially since it inhabits sort of a researchy space where the goal is to get students excited about advanced work in computer systems, especially as it applies to the internet and large-scale distributed computing. So I wanted to start by giving you this much anticipated and delayed welcome message. As you probably all know, I was on travel through the 27th per my communication to the via Sakai, where I mentioned that I would be out for a few days. And after coming back, I was a bit unwell for 2 to 3 days. As many of you probably know, with international travel, sometimes you arrive and you're not feeling so good, often after eating crappy airplane food and in general not sleeping well. So it's kind of a combination of things. And now I'm back in business, and so I'm making this welcome message for you. So basically, as you probably noticed by looking at the website for Sakai, I am not exactly making use of Sakai except for the grade book. So when you want to look at your grades on homework assignments, etc., you should go to Sakai. The most important link actually is the one to the Distributed Systems Trello site, which is here. Of course, I had some trouble making this clickable because it was an announcement, but in any event, that link will actually take you to this page. Just to make sure you believe me, I will reload it. Okay, so this is basically the main place to find information about the course. You will notice that I will largely be keeping a collection of lists. So you can see there is an announcements list, there's a homework list, there is the next several weeks of lectures are well underway in terms of actually planning them out and making sure we get videos for them. So I wanted to see through the welcome message briefly. There are a few things that you really need to know about how I'm going to be using various technologies to communicate and interact with you this semester. Obviously, Trello is kind of like the place where most of the content and links to other resources will be found. So this site that we're looking at right now is where you should be checking pretty regularly, especially for homework assignments and information about the project, which will be coming much sooner than anyone realizes. So Trello is really kind of the center of everything, even though it's listed second on the list. You need to quickly become familiar, if not a master, of version control systems. So I mostly recommend for this class that everybody uses Bitbucket, because Bitbucket allows us to have free, unlimited private repositories, especially if you sign up with if you associate your university email address with the account. It will actually enable you to have a full-fledged education account. We're going to use Sakai, as I mentioned, but only for the grade book. So there is where you should check for everything. And then we'll very likely be making use of a number of Google technologies throughout the semester. If anything, you'll probably use Google for its single sign-on. A comment I want everyone to please take a very close look at is that, in general, I recommend that you enable the two-factor authentication for Google. This allows you to protect your Google account a little bit further by having an additional challenge beyond your password. And so please, if as you're making use of various technologies this semester, please make sure you pay attention to security. We'll probably have even a lecture on this topic sometime this semester, just about cloud security and things that we need to really be paying attention to, as this has been a really big news topic recently. So basically, that's one of the key places you want to look for information. So the other thing is we have lecture notes. There is still some work being done on these notes. However, the material we need for the first several weeks is here. We're going to start by taking a look at the introduction and issues, which I will post as a separate video lecture. So I will actually be talking to these notes and offering many insights and examples beyond what you see here. The other thing we're going to really be talking about fairly soon is networking and multi-threading. So basically, those three topics are going to largely comprise the technical content that we need for our homework and for the project. So everybody should please start taking a look at these notes. And if the other thing you will want to do is, if you have not done so already, is to make sure you're participating in the Facebook group. The Facebook group is named Loyola Distributed Systems, and I've already posted a link that everybody should be using to join. If you have not joined yet, please do so right away, because it's really crucial that you have access to this for latest announcements, and so you can also get help. I really want people to view the class as a resource that, in addition to me, for getting answers to questions, and also for using it to do some community building. Because we're an online course, it's really important that we interact with one another and get to know each other. So if you take a look in the Facebook group, you'll see that I keep one of the posts pinned at the top here. I will probably unpin this at some point, but this is where you can find links to all of the things I just told you about. And almost every announcement I make will be here. So for example, as of today, when I made this video, you can see that I have made some recent announcements, including an announcement about homework number 1. So please, make sure you're staying in touch with this group daily. I can't repeat this enough, and you'll be all the better for it. So that's essentially the welcome. I want to spend a few minutes, if everyone will just indulge me for another maybe 10 to 15 minutes, talking about the syllabus, because I haven't actually had an opportunity to say much about this, because I often design my syllabi to do most of the talking on their own. So this is something I usually would spend about 30 to 40 minutes on in my on-site class. So I want to say a few words about the overall approach of this class. So I'm going to go straight to the course summary. And basically in this course, we are really focused on presenting a modern treatment of distributed systems. Back when I was a student in graduate school, distributed systems was one of those classes that, basically was extremely theoretical. The only thing you ever saw were equations being posted, typically about networking protocols, acknowledgement problems, and synchronization problems. And we're going to have a few of those formulae being thrown at us now and then. But I really want this class to be more about applied distributed systems, where we're actually looking at protocols and programming frameworks for doing things, and also where we're interacting with modern architecture and approaches. So for example, we will look at things like service-oriented architecture, cloud computing. We'll likely take a tour of some historical but important frameworks, things like the DNS system, Corba, which is for distributed object computing, and some of these may or may not be covered, but the idea is to have a practicum. In addition, we're going to explore some topics through what I call student lectures and, your projects. So that's what I want to do. Is I want to show you a little bit about the course requirements and grade breakdown, because I think this will give you a very good idea of the overall approach of the course. So we'll have a number of short programming assignments. These will make up about a quarter of your grade, as you can see here. Where you see participation in Piazza group, I just realized that there is a little bit of a typo here. This needs to say participation in, let me fix it now. And that's the nice thing about Trello, is that I can fix things right away. So where did that go? Oh my God. Apologies for this. Yes, it should say participation in Facebook group. And then we're also going to have a number of short quizzes. This is an online class, so I'm still trying to figure out the best way to handle the quizzes. So stay tuned for information on that. It is possible that the quizzes would be replaced by some sort of take-home or online quiz that needs to be completed within a certain amount of time. I will ask everybody to sign a code of conduct and honor form, honor system type of form, indicating that you will take these quizzes honestly and do them yourself. Loyola is an ethics university, so I assume there is no problem getting people to agree that being ethical would be to their and to their classmates' advantage. We will have also, again this year, we're going to have a required written lecture on a distributed systems topic. This will be done by you forking a copy of the book, and you will learn to use the authoring system that I use to write these notes and make your own lecture. I will also provide several samples, because in the last year's distributed systems class, students also did this. And it was hugely successful, and I think the vast majority of students really enjoyed doing it. Lastly, there'll be a group project, and because of the written lecture, the group project will be a little bit shorter than what we normally would do when there's only a project. So the project should be thought of as kind of like maybe a supercharged version of the hardest of the programming assignments, but where you also are required to go above and beyond the actual material and to come up with something interesting and original. Okay, so now that I've talked about the grade breakdown, just a few things that I want to say about prerequisites. Many of you are here because you've already been in a systems class or one of the foundational classes and hopefully did well in it. Just so to set everyone's expectations, I really expect that people have mastered at a very minimum the material of data structures and what's called the systems programming class at Loyola. For graduate students, if you came without prerequisites, this means you should definitely have taken those 388 prerequisite courses before coming to my class. And again, I think my approach in general is not to operate as a police force, so I don't enforce these prerequisites rigidly. However, if I see you struggling, I'm very likely to bring it to your attention that you are unprepared for the class. Okay, so please don't put me in this situation, because it kind of creates an uncomfortable situation for everyone, and I really like to have a good time, so and I know you do too, so let's really work hard. I'd be remiss though if I didn't say that I think everybody really should know also something about object-oriented design patterns. So this really means the equivalent of Comp 313 and 413. Again, we are slightly in transition as a course, so this means that if you're not a master of object-oriented programming, you might be okay, but keep in mind I'm going to be showing you code that uses object-oriented programming rather extensively, so you better know the basics. This is just in. Development language is totally up to you. In this course, I have rarely ever asked people to use one programming language for doing their work. As everybody probably knows, I'm more of a polyglot type of programmer, which means I use languages that I find best for the task I'm trying to do, as opposed to one that matches my research. So one thing I want to point out is that a distributed researcher typically uses a lot of different languages. The one thing that distributed people agree on is the need for what we call web or network interfaces. So to me, like, the interface between pieces of code is more important than what language they're written in. And that said, you can see that my list here includes many that you have likely used in your own life. So Java, C#, C and C++, Python, and Scala. I teach C# in the introductory CS class, so that should give you an idea that I have a very inclusive definition of what programming languages should be used in my class. Okay. Textbooks, I should point out that we do not require a textbook for this course, but the one textbook that has had some influence even on my own notes is the Distributed Systems Concepts and Design book by Caloris, Dollimore, Kinberg. There's actually a 5th edition out now. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but if you search for the PDF for this, you will find that somebody has posted it online. However, your job is to acquire this textbook if you need it. And what I mean by this is if you need to read in addition to the lecture notes and my lectures and papers that I'm asking you to read, then you definitely are going to need to get this book, but you don't need it otherwise. Okay, so there are plenty of used copies out there. I even have a couple. I may be willing to loan them to people who need them. Okay, so obviously there is no required attendance for this class because all of our lectures and participation is online. Again, there's a usual rule for how you manage your time, in a class, and university administrators love to talk about this, but you should spend at least 2 to 3 times the number of credit hours that are assigned to a course outside of class. So this means 6 to 9 hours minimum by all students in the class. Okay, so again, I don't feel like there's anything that controversial about this. I expect you to be taking my class seriously, but I also am not, as I mentioned, I don't run a police force, and I'm not a babysitter, even though I have 2 little kids. And so, I'm expecting you to police yourself and really spend the appropriate amount of time in my class. Late work policy has changed from previous offerings, and this is going to be my new policy going forward in all classes. Beginning this year, I will be marking anything that's late as L and anything extremely late as XL. And what will happen is the penalty will be determined at the end of the semester. If you have a lot of L grades, then you should expect that you could have any number of percentage points up to 10% removed from that category. The categories where late applies, by the way, are homework, the lecture, and the project. Obviously, you cannot really be late on a quiz because you'll just get a 0 if you don't do it. Okay, so I've given some examples here of how this policy will be applied. again, please don't push me to get, push me too hard when it comes to this. Because I really don't like to deduct points for late work. And if you're only late like one time, I'm probably not going to take off any points. But it's where you establish a pattern of being late that I'm going to be very concerned. And I will have to make some kind of deduction. Okay, just to make it clear, it's never, ever, ever permitted to miss a quiz without advance notice or a significant medical emergency type of reason. If you are asking for to make up a quiz, you should be prepared to show a note from the wellness center or your doctor. And almost any reason qualifies, but I need people to follow that policy this year. Lastly, I do want to say a thing about academic integrity. There is an official college policy document. I ask everyone to read that. I'm not going to waste any time showing it to you. But one thing you will have to do is whenever you take an exam or something where you're doing it without being supervised, you're going to have to sign an ethics statement saying that you are following the college policies and that you have taken the test on your own. So, like I said, I've never had any problem with people cheating, and I hope that it will not start this semester. Okay, so I believe that two things have happened here. One, my network connection seems to have gone out, so this is a perfect time for me to stop the welcome video. And I will be happy to take any questions in the Facebook group about course policies. I will probably make a separate posting also of this video so that you can feel free to add your comments if you have any. So I'm looking forward to this semester, and I know that that's a lot of serious stuff to get out of the way. The rest of the class should be pretty fun and not always serious. So thank you for your attention.